Hi there. My name is Rebekah Koffler. I'm Russian by birth and American by choice. I'm an immigrant from the former Soviet Union. I was born and raised behind the Iron Curtain in the country that no longer exists. Life growing up was pretty tough, and I wanted to share with you today what my country of birth was like. It was a totalitarian socialist regime, which means that people who were in charge only cared about themselves and not the people whom they were governing. I'll tell you about the various aspects of life. Well, the basics were basically non-existent. There was shortage of everything, food, basic food staples, even toilet paper, sanitary products. Those things were just basically not available. So if you went to a grocery store, the best you could hope for was to find three things there: milk, bread, maybe some sausages. And there would be long, long lines for those staples. On a bad day, you could come to a grocery store and there would be empty shelves. Why is that? Because socialism doesn't produce enough goods and services for everybody. There's no innovation, there's no incentive for people to work and produce quality stuff. So we used to have a saying, they pretend that they pay us and we pretend to work. So the Communist Party was in charge, and they had access to everything. They were treated at different hospitals. They shopped at different shops. They were able to travel outside of the country when the rest of us, regular folks, couldn't do that. It was, you had to go through a very stringent process to get an exit visa. And some people were just simply denied. Most people were. Let's see, medical care was atrocious. If you want to have your teeth, drilled, if you had cavities, that was pure torture because there was no Novocaine. They did it without any painkiller. So you basically had to be strapped in to the chair so you don't kick the dentist. Why? Again, because the dentist's family probably needed Novocaine as well. So the overall life was very tough, but probably the most difficult thing was that there were lies everywhere. The government officials would lie both to foreign audiences and to us, the Soviet citizens, about how wonderful the social system was, praising its superiority to capitalism. And we knew that this was a lie, because all you need to do is go to the store and go anywhere really, and you knew which system was superior. My mom was dead at 55, courtesy of the free socialist healthcare. I don't know, and I'm not sure if I could describe to you. I may try a little bit later. Why I came to America. So my mom always encouraged me to learn English and do very well at school so that one day I could go to America. I have no idea how she knew about America. Both my parents were blue collar. My dad was a driver for some big bosses, and then later he was a taxi driver. And my mom worked in the food industry. And because food was not available just in general, there were shortages everywhere, she had to steal meat in order to feed our family and my grandma and my aunt and her family and my uncle and his family. So you see, when the economy does not produce enough, people use their position to basically survive. So because of all those shortages, there was a lot of corruption, and you had to bribe everybody for everything. To get a landline phone installed, you had to wait like 5-10 years, depending whether you bribe someone or not. To buy a car, definitely 10-15 years. There was no private property. The government owned everything. So like I said, my mom encouraged me to go to America, the land of freedom and opportunity. And so since I was a child, I knew that that's what I was going to do. I have no idea why. So I learned English, and I eventually at school. And eventually I went to a university in Moscow, and there I continued my studies of English and French, and met some exchange students, the British and the Americans. And I learned from them how wonderful life was in the West. And we also listened to Voice of America. It was not allowed, but my parents did not agree with the Soviet system. So we were trying to get the truth. So we were listening to Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and Voice of America, usually at night on the shortwave radio. The Russians jammed those transmissions because they didn't want people to learn about what the Westerners live like. I also worked as a tour guide and an interpreter, Russian English interpreter, in my 4th and 5th year of college. We had a 5-year education process, the higher education. You just got an equivalent of a master's degree. There was no bachelor's degree at that time. So I worked as a tour guide, and I met Americans and the Brits. And the first thing that struck me about Americans was they seemed to be so free-spirited and so happy, and nothing was unachievable for them. And they said to me, "You have to come to America. What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, that's exactly what my mother has been telling me since I was a child." And so eventually that was arranged by my friends. So I came to America, and then eventually I immigrated. And I just love this country. I'm so proud to be American. What I love the best here is freedom, of course. Freedom from the government. Because you see, under socialism, the government controls every aspect of your life. You can't do anything without the government's permission. You cannot move to a different city because there's such a thing as propiska, which is basically a registration. So it was almost impossible to move and live in another city, especially in a big city like Moscow and St. Petersburg. Like I said, we were not allowed to travel freely. A very small group of people were allowed to travel, the so-called the trustworthy ones, the ones who believed in the Soviet system. So obviously, I love the fact that we have plenty to eat here. You know, in America, there's almost too much food, so much that people, you know, sort of abuse it, right? But people are never hungry. Even people who are poor, you know, they can find food to eat. There are agencies, obviously, who are helping those folks. The hospitals, the medical care are amazing in this country. Eventually, after I had immigrated, I helped sponsor my sister and my father, and they also came to America and became American citizens. And my father had a quadruple bypass surgery here in Miami, and he's still alive and thriving, and he would be dead in the Soviet Union, just like my mom was, unfortunately, at 55, because medical care is atrocious. Like I said, when there's no innovation, the medical care does not have all of the technology, all of the medicine that we have here in America. Just think about the revolution that effectively took place in our pharmaceutical industry when we're able to effectively beat cancer. You know, people with cancer now can live. We have beaten AIDS, HIV, right? People don't die from that disease anymore like they used to. And that is because we have competition, and people like, you know, look at Amazon, look at Apple. You know, we have a technological revolution as well, which helps the healthcare industry. The type of surgeries that we do are just simply amazing, and we keep our people alive for much, much longer. For example, my father, who's 85 right now, he beat all the odds. You know, the lifespan for the Russian males, I think it used to be about 60, 65. I don't recall exactly what it's now, maybe 68, 70. Most of his friends back there died, and even family members, but he is just simply thriving. So we love that about America. Unfortunately, what I've noticed right now, 30 years after I immigrated, that there are some disturbing trends in our country that are giving me flashbacks to the Russia I fled. I even wrote 2 articles about that, USSR 2.0, how my adopted homeland is giving me a flashback to the Russia I fled. And then another one I read, Socialism in America, a warning to my adopted homeland, something like that. You can Google them. And my name, Rebekah Koffler, and USSR 2.0, or Rebekah Koffler and Socialism. These trends remind me of the emergence of the totalitarian regime. You know, the government is mandating that we put vaccines in our bodies, whether, you know, whether it's good or bad for us. Everybody is mandated to get a vaccine, and that's just not right, because it's not safe for everyone. I personally took the vaccine, and my entire family did, but I had a very strong reaction to it, and I know some people who really did not do well. And so it's really not government business to dictate what we do, what we eat, where we, go live or travel. And so similarly, the suppression of free speech is very alarming because the plurality of opinions is the cornerstone of democracy. And this is why America has always been thriving, because it is only through debate that you can arrive at the truth. And when you suppress an alternative view, as we're experiencing right now, the suppression of conservative views, religious views, other views that don't conform to the prevailing orthodoxy, you can be punished just like we were in the USSR. You can lose your job, you can be expelled from school, you can be canceled. And this is just no good. It should be a concern for both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans. Because again, the emergence of the party line view is not good for democracy. Similarly, when our Department of Justice and the School Board Association designate parents who disagree with the critical race theory, which divides people, designating them as domestic terrorists by applying the law, the Patriot Act, that was originally designed to protect America from the true threats, terrorists. That is a pure communist tactic. We should not allow this to happen in America. Critical race theory is a Marxist ideology. And right now, my children are being indoctrinated in American schools the way that I was indoctrinated in the former Soviet Union. I find myself telling my kids before they go to school the same thing that my mom told me. 3 things. Do not believe everything you hear and see on TV and radio. Do not believe everything that your teachers are teaching you. And don't share your views with others, your family views. That is because it was dangerous for us to tell others that we disagree with the system, because the government demanded that neighbor spy on neighbor. This is right now what we are experiencing here in America. I turn around before I share some of my opinions, which are not popular with some of my friends even. I am for freedom. I think the critical race theory divides people and polarizes people. Saying that people of one skin color is oppressors and the other skin color are the oppressed, that is a communist tactic. This is how the communists divided people as well. They prohibited the use of native language in republics that were part of the Soviet Union, where Russian was not their native language. For example, in Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, at schools, they were not allowed to teach their native language, only Russian. Russian was the state language. Also, religion was outlawed. So people were angry at each other. They were experiencing a very hard life when everything is in very scarce supply. People are very stressed out. And they try to take it out on each other. They blame each other for various things. So there were racial slurs, not racial, the way that it was basically the people of various ethnicities were calling names, each other. So, and here there's no racism. I I don't believe, I see how various people, various immigrants are treated, and they're treated much better than in their own home countries. And this is why everyone wants to come to America. Everyone wants to immigrate to this country. If America were racist, you wouldn't see scores and scores of people of various nationalities, Black, white, yellow, you name it. You wouldn't see them all knocking on our door. What I'm hoping is that my little testimony will help people see that America is a wonderful country, and we want to protect the freedom, and we want to protect all of our rights. That I see that US government leaders are now trying to take it away in order to maintain their control. And I also want to set the record straight on what socialism is really about. It's not about the free stuff, because when everything is free, nothing is available, because the system simply does not produce enough for everyone like we have here. And when you're getting something for free, think about what you're giving up in return. And that is your rights. And we already have seen this. We have seen during COVID how our leaders maintain the double standard. They put out the rules and the mandates for everyone else, and yet they don't follow their own rules. We've seen that. Thank you for listening. I'm honored to participate in Lily Tang's project, and I stand for freedom and liberty. Russian by birth, American by choice. Thank you.